It was constant, it was rapid fire. So I stopped participating in those. I tried to walk away. I tried to go to another room, even to the point of locking myself in rooms so that she just could pound on the door and scream. That was clearly a mistake. I should have never fallen for that or taken the bait to allow myself to get into a conversation which led to an argument, which led to physical violence. It was not going to be good, so I would just walk away, which drove her through the roof.
All right, joining me this hour, all the way from Dallas, Texas, former federal prosecutor and former Department of Justice senior attorney and federal executive clemency attorney, Tammy Allison. And also trial attorney and former prosecutor, Imran Ansari. Thanks to both of you for joining me this evening. Truly appreciate it. What I want to do with the time we have here, Imran and Tammy, is go through what Johnny has to prove. And then I want to get your thoughts on whether he has proven it or not. So let's bring up the first one. What Johnny has to prove. First thing, that the op-ed was essentially about him. That's the sort of baseline. So let me start with you, Tammy. Do you think he's reached that point? We're almost to the end of his case, so we can fairly talk about some of the evidence we've seen.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
You're welcome.
Yes, I think that Johnny and his team have reached the point of establishing the fact that the op-ed was about him. What other high-profile relationship had Amber Heard been in? Who else could she have been talking about? So,
all right.
Check mark there.
Fair enough. Imran, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So this is the notion, Michael, under defamation law of defamation by implication, where if you don't have to necessarily name the individual who ultimately may sue for defamation, as Johnny Depp has done here, but the facts and the publication, the statements are so pointed that you can imply, it's implied that it's about a certain individual. So in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard context, I think that Johnny Depp's team has established so far that you can, it's so implied that her op-ed piece is pointed and pointing that finger at Johnny Depp, that I do believe that their team has succeeded, that the statement was about Johnny Depp.
All right, so we'll check that one off. The second one is a little more complicated, and this one is she lied and that he did not abuse her. Again, this is a little more complicated. So this time, let me start with you, Imran.
Yeah, no, so that is being established through the evidence you have here. Has it been established yet? Well, I don't think so. And you have Amber Heard's testimony that we're all waiting for, and that may tip the balance. That may tip the balance in her favor because truth is an absolute defense to a claim of defamation. And if she is able to show and establish through her testimony, through the evidence on the defense case, that Johnny Depp did abuse her, as she has alleged, well then, checkpoint and mark and point for Amber Heard.
All right, Tammy, I want to get your thoughts on that. Has he done enough?
My guest analyst here has hit the nail on the head. Bars, okay? Truth is a defense to this type of claim that Johnny Depp has brought. And if she can show that she herself has been a victim of domestic violence at the hand of Johnny Depp, then at that point, then she has a very strong case against this. And her counterclaim of $100 million is probably going to prevail. And I think that they're doing, so far what we've seen, we haven't heard from Amber yet, but we did see that video. And in my opinion, that video was very damaging to show that Johnny Depp was being abusive. Yeah,
in many ways, it's going to come down to her credibility, because at the end of the day, it's difficult to prove a negative. And I think what they've been doing is muddying the waters a little bit to show you who Amber Heard is. So when she does take the stand, you kind of look at it a little differently. All right, let's go to the next thing that I want to check out. And that's whether her actions were done with malice. Remember, he is a celebrity, so he has to prove that the actions here were done, or the lies, or what he's claiming, that they were done with malice. Do you think he's got enough horses for that?
Yesterday we talked about, mutually beneficial relationships and, her relationship with the ACLU and their relationship with her. I don't believe that her actions of writing the op-ed was done with malice towards Johnny Depp. I think it was done with her raising awareness of domestic violence and her being a survivor, and probably a little bit of a benefit that she would get is being, a poster child, so to speak, of being a survivor. So I don't think malice has been, that checked off. No, not at all. But does she have a reason other than speaking out about domestic violence? Perhaps.
All right, Imran, your thoughts on this? I mean, I throw into the mix the fact that we know, or at least it's alleged by Johnny Depp, that she got a restraining order by perhaps fabricating either a story or creating some kind of injury on herself. That seems to me to move the ball a little bit in that direction.
Yeah, Michael, so this all goes down to that famous SCOTUS case, New York Times versus Sullivan, which established that actual malice standard when dealing with public figures. So what does Johnny Depp have to show? As you stated, malice and actual malice, and that is that Amber Heard, with that op-ed piece, published a statement which was knowingly false, or with reckless disregard for the truth. So Johnny Depp and their team are really trying to show this sort of larger picture here to establish that there is malice here, and actual malice, and this was done with the intent or the reckless disregard to the truth and has caused damage to Johnny Depp. And that Amber did this with that purpose in mind. I think they're really trying to get that established. And as you pointed out, Michael, some of that evidence, some of that testimony coming out is supporting that case.
Yeah, no question about it. Finally, and quickly, we have one more. He has to prove, of course, the damages, that the lies cost him millions. Imran, I'll start with you. We already heard testimony that he might have lost a contract, $25 million. We know he's suing for $50 million. He wants punitive damages as well. Your thoughts on whether he's showing enough to show that this cost him millions?
Yeah, Michael, he needs to show specifically that this op-ed piece caused him the damages. So not any of the other allegations that preceded it, not any of the other allegations or events that came after it, but specifically the damages flowed from this op-ed piece. And that's where I think Amber Heard's attorney scored some points in showing the timeline. Was this Pirates of the Caribbean installment yanked from him before or after this op-ed piece? And I think that's where Johnny Depp has to really has more of an uphill battle in terms of showing the damages linked to this piece.
Yeah, and Tammy, he's exactly right. They showed a lot of information that perhaps Disney was concerned about some other things, like his drinking issue and drug issues.
Yeah, and he's had a history of the substance abuse and drinking problems. So there is something else that could be to blame for him not having these contracts. And even if it was because of the op-ed piece, there are certain elements that have to be met in order for him to prevail on this case. And I don't think we've seen it yet.
Yeah, these are not numbers you pull out of the air. You got to show that
Yes.
these things actually are for that reason. All right, stand by, guys. We're going to take a break. Now, before we go, another quick reminder. Tonight and every night for the duration of the Depp-Heard defamation trial, join me as I bring you a special edition of Testimony of the Day. Get caught up on all the best moments from the day's courtroom action during a special hour starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. Now, both Depp and Heard are suing each other for millions in damages. Depp claims his acting career has been damaged due to Heard's domestic abuse claims. We break down what he needs to prove in order to be rewarded damages in this case. And then later in our Talk Back segment, you've been engaged in this trial, folks, since the very beginning. And you've been asking us tons of questions online about the case. We're going to have your top questions and have our team of experts try to answer them just a little later. All that and more coming up, so keep it right here on Court TV.
Download.